So tough for iNcontroL, but perhaps in game number 2 he can change gears, go a bit quicker, see if he can put some real pressure onto JimRising, who has been dominating this group so far, I want to say.
Yeah, and I mean with a portrait like this, how could he not? Looking like an absolute mercenary out there with this paint on his face. I love these portraits. Like, it's so sick. Like, every time Nicolas shows is asked to do something, like, I'm like trying to picture what he's gonna do. But like, this is why he's a true artist. Like, when his art comes out, every time I'm a little bit blown away. Like, he's done so much good stuff over there. I think he's. Did you see his Serral portrait of after he won the global finals?
Yeah, I think it's one of the best ones.
Yeah, I think it's one of the best art I've ever seen in my life. Like, honestly, it's so insane.
It's very good.
Is iNcontroL gonna go? No, okay, no, he's Nexus first, I guess.
Yeah, Nexus first. He's
no, he drops the Forge. So he waits until he sees whether there is a pull, and then he decides. And this time he sees that there is no spawning pull. He's like, all right, you're asking for it. Drops the Forge.
I'm not sure how well you can cannon on this map, though. I feel like it's pretty difficult. There's not a lot of spots where you can truly wall in your cannons perfectly. JimRising just gonna pull some workers for now.
Yeah, JimRising, like, I think he pretty much knows without seeing the Forge that this is for real. I'm guessing a lot more drones are about to be pulled. Yeah, at least 3 more. Oops. Are these all cannons? Yeah. 4 cannons starting. I don't like the pylon, the extra pylon here. He could have made 1 more cannon instead. Just keep spamming cannons until like it's sure that you have enough. I guess maybe he wanted to wall off, but there is already 3 and 3 drones on those 2 bottom cannons. Did he just trap
wall in those?
Oh my god.
Okay, now I like the pylons a lot.
Oh my god. He just locked him in. That's so sick. I cannot believe he just locked him in like that. I was like, I don't like the pylon. iNcontroL. He's like, shut up, Todd. He's trapped. 12 workers against 21 now.
That was sick. That was a sick play. And he's getting a cannon at home. He saw the Zerglings make their way across the map. This hatchery is gonna fall eventually, even though there's only a single cannon attacking it. I feel like if iNcontroL doesn't get any real damage against himself now, he should just...
Is that a perfect wall? It's not.
No. There's still a gap, and he knows.
Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god.
Oh, no, he's not ready.
Oh my, I saw that coming, that's why I asked. Oh, so 4 links get in, and one of those is injured, but that's gonna be so annoying having to deal with this. If he had just made the pylon, his life would have been made so much easier. And iNcontroL... Oh, it is a pylon like on the 3rd base of JimRising, the probe's dying. JimRising will drop a hatchery there. Ooh, JimRising overextended with the links and loses them pretty quick, but he does kill 2 probes, so 13 walkers to 21 now.
I still think this is a very, very good situation here for iNcontroL. He's up in workers, his Nexus is way faster than the natural of JimRising. And JimRising doesn't really have any tech either. I mean, he didn't even mine a single gas. And he's just behind at this point. He also lost an Overlord to a... oh, I guess it's the hatchery, that's why he's supply blocked. Oh, he's gonna lose the larva though. Look, at the natural.
Yeah. He's supply blocked. It's pretty sick to have 3 cannons there too, because like it's very hard for Zerg to get rid of this, especially with 3 pylons as well. So it's like, as soon as you get warp gate, sure enough, you can warp in a bunch of units, ideally adepts, and like shade all over the place to try and kill some drones.
Yeah. And the worst part is that the adepts will kind of have a safe space where they can go back to recharge their shields after. So you walk in, you shield towards the cannons, or you shade towards the cannons, then recharge your shields, and bang, you can go again. Man, iNcontroL is very scared of a Baneling bus.
Yeah.
2 more batteries going down.
Oh my
Sentry
god.
being chrono boosted first. He's like, oh, he really does not want to die to JimRising.
He's like, oh, I gave you the benefit of the doubt a couple times on ladder, never again. I don't know what happened in their previous games in the past, but I'm gonna guess there was some huge attacks from JimRising, who, by the look of things, he's just running up. Starts Lair now. Warpgate started late though, because he made like a sentry, he made Stargate, and then started Warpgate. So Warpgate's definitely a bit late, and he's not chrono boosting it either. So it doesn't feel like he wants to particularly be aggressive with a bunch of gateways. which I personally would have liked. Like, obviously, iNcontroL gained a great economic lead with his Cannon Rush. I feel like if you go Stargate with Oracle, you force Spores, and then if you go for, say, like even like just a 3-gate Adepts without Glaives, you force even more unit and prevent the opponent from making even more drones.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you. There is the one thing that that JimRising does have kind of going for him in this game is that he has pretty nice creep spread, kind of forced into it, at least compared to the game before he hardly had any. So he will see stuff coming, especially the Oracle, a bit easier. On the other hand, he really has nothing. Like, he's down in workers, doesn't have a third base. He does have a layer, which is nice. So I guess he's gonna go for quick Hydras, but he's already losing a couple of extra drones to this one Oracle with iNcontroL sent over. So right now it's 44 workers against 39, even amount of bases. I mean, this is a... Oh, iNcontroL wants to capitalize on his lead, I feel like, just throwing down 4 more gateways.
I think if you're gonna make this many gateways, shouldn't he have skipped the gases on the expo maybe for a while? Make the gates first and then he can start on warping across the map?
Yeah, unless he wants to go very sentry heavy. I'm not a massive fan of the way he did it.
There's some pretty sick plays he could do actually with that ramp too.
Yeah, yeah.
Imagine he made like a huge warp-in of Adepts, went into the main base and then force-fielded the ramp. And then like he can synergize with the Oracles as well, maybe with some stasis wards. Warps in, some Zealots in the back. I don't think there's vision. No, JimRising doesn't see much, but he knows it's a big possibility that something will be warped there. He does see the Forge researching +1 across the map, and he's gonna start around Hydralisks.
Yeah, there is 3 Oracles on the map already, and there's a second Stargate on the way, as well as Charge and +1. So I guess it's going to be a similar style as last game, but iNcontroL doesn't really feel the need to expand, because JimRising hasn't really taken a third either. So I guess it's going to be 2 base against 2 base, at least for now. And I think the longer the game goes, the better it will actually be for iNcontroL, which is funny because he's the one attacking. I don't think that's necessary though. If he would be the one defending, I think he would be in a great spot. Oh, he's gonna try to walk in first field the ramp.
Oh my god, and the sentry dies. The Hydra is now gonna get sniped. They're dealing with the Oracles. Yeah, the Oracle's gonna die too. Did I pull back? Nope. So Zealots in the main base now. JimRising gonna run around for a little bit. These are not charge lows, by the way. He's got charge on the way, but it's very far from completing. So JimRising defense for now. iNcontroL starts the +1 air weapons. It feels like if he had just committed to a big gateway attack after the Stargate, like just don't take the gas on the expo, that might have been able to work, but now it just came so late that there is a lot of Hydralisks, and you can count on JimRising to be good enough to run around with drones if he needs to, buy some time and do well. Recall out there from iNcontroL.
Yeah, I like that. That was a good call. No charge wasn't gonna finish in time, and he needs him to defend. And like I mentioned, JimRising is actually the one that wanted to be aggressive. All iNcontroL really needed to do was just sit back and wait for his opponent to attack into him. JimRising during this walked 3 queens across the map, but after the recall there was too many zealots to... So iNcontroL just dealt with those queens relatively easily. And I feel like this will actually go into one of the weirdest macro games I've seen in my life.
Yeah.
Because I don't really see a way for JimRising to truly kill iNcontroL. Like, iNcontroL has +1 on the Zealots, he has charge. There is a Baneling Nest on the way, but it's not done yet, so... There's too many Zealots just to fight with your Hydras. The moment they engage right now, iNcontroL would absolutely destroy JimRising's army.
Oh my god, he's trying to catch him?
Yeah, I think it's a very good call by iNcontroL. Oh, go! No fight!
Oh my god. He got worried. I think, like, it's really hard to judge these fights. Like, us as spectators, we see everything, but he sees, like, a group of Hydralisks. He doesn't know how much there is behind this, you know? Maybe there is, like, an equally large group of Hydralisks just right behind those, and if they rejoin one another, you're gonna throw away all your charge lot army, so... Even in the previous game, I think he seized up the army of JimRising a little bit wrong, and maybe thought that the force wasn't as scary as it was, and that's why he lost his army in an instant. So it's very hard, you know, as spectator, again, we see everything. Like, I think both of us, and maybe even iNcontroL, if we had been seeing the whole map here, we would have been like, alright, let's jump on top of these Hydras and kill them, but yeah, you can't see everything.
Yeah. +2 almost finished for iNcontroL. I still think he's in a very good position. Like, if you have even supply against a Zerg that's playing Hydra Bane, and you're up 2 upgrades almost, I think usually you're going to be in a good spot. He also still has 7 Phoenixes ready to basically do some kind of damage. I think he should be able to get at least 7 to 8 drones. And that would put him in the lead once again in the worker department. He's getting his 3rd base by now. JimRising starting to think of a 4th, but he doesn't really have the saturation for it whatsoever. Like his natural is finally starting to get saturated. There's a couple of guys missing in the main for JimRising. iNcontroL, on the other hand, is taking it slow. Finally starting to rally workers towards his own 3rd base. Getting the storm, getting the +3.
Yeah. iNcontroL, by the way, not a very big skin guy. like his buildings and units. I guess he does have a Zell. On units, yeah, on units he has it actually, but not on buildings. He has nothing. Whereas JimRising, like, he's got the cool banelings. I'm very impressed actually with some of the skins, especially like the latest from the waters. Oh my god, he's actually gonna attack! Some big storms land, but a lot of this army took a ton of damage here.
Yeah, and this is pretty much how I thought the fight would go earlier. Once the banelings disappear, the Zealots basically have free play. And I think iNcontroL is in a very good position right now, where he's up 2 upgrades. There is melee upgrades, but no range upgrades. And I mean, melee upgrades are nice to have, but if you only have 10 Zerglings and what, 8 banelings on the way, they're not going to be too useful.
No, the Phoenix.
Oh, here comes iNcontroL with a little bit of a Zealot run by into 3rd, which I think is good. I feel like he should have been attacking somewhere with his main army at the same time as well.
Yeah, a prism could be nice at this stage in the game too. Like
he has a prism already. On the right side. It's about to die.
Oh yeah, okay. Oh, that's where they came from, okay.
Yeah.
He's making another one. Yeah, I feel like a prism in the main base here is really sick. Keep in mind though, iNcontrol's ahead in supply, and JimRising is stuck on lair. And I've always said this since the dawn of time. I feel like if you can get to 180 to 200 supply and you got Storm and all that and some well upgraded units, a Zerg on lair tech should not beat you. Unless his name is Cyril and he's got lurkers or something. But then, you know, like these are like some serious asterisks in there, so. Oh my god.
Oh, big way run by onto the 3rd, and this is not looking all too good here for iNcontroL. Wow, actually, good micro. Saved all of his probes, loses 3. That's very impressive.
Yeah, he sent
I thought
one
this
back.
was gonna go absolutely terrible. The prism, as you mentioned, right now, no, it's not going to the main base, just going towards the 3rd base again. iNcontroL attacking the 4th base will most likely get it. Force should block some of the Hydras. Storm.
Oh my god, the High Templars! They all get blown up at once, and iNcontroL is gonna lose the remainder of his army. Wow, those High Templars, that was not ideal here for iNcontroL, whose army just vanished once again. 76 supply now against 114.
Yeah, that was an absolutely terrible fight. This game was looking so good for iNcontroL, and this is the first time in this game where I'm like, huh, perhaps right now JimRising is in a little bit of a lead, because even though iNcontroL had this 3rd base for a while, it isn't really probed up that well. I mean, he's on 3 bases, 48 workers. He doesn't really have any Archons, he has no Immortals, no Sentries, so he doesn't have any of those expensive gas units, which you usually start building up from the start.
It's the problem with facing banelings and stepping on creeps as well, is that like the tables can turn instantly, especially if you don't have many sentries to force fill them away. In this case, the High Templar is a little bit too far forward, but it's kind of sad because it feels like iNcontroL does a lot of things well, and then like it's like one single mistake, you know, and banelings coming in really fast, blow up his army. I can only sympathize as a fellow Protoss. I've been there too. In the last Casters tournament, actually, I had like my series against Yogo, so much struggles against the Hydra Bane style and then into lurkers. It's just like a thing that's like really hard to deal with. When you watch pros like Showtime or even yourself, sometimes it looks easy. But if you're not a pro player and facing this kind of stuff, it's like, well, you can actually lose a game in an instant if you don't play close to perfectly with your units.
Yeah. We see the Prism finally going to the main like you suggested. But JimRising, being the good player that he is already, was kind of ready with a couple of Hydra. Snipes the Warp Prism as it was about to warp in. Meanwhile, iNcontroL is running towards the 5th base of JimRising. But I don't think he'll be able to achieve too much there.
Doesn't it feel like iNcontrol's playing too aggressive? Or is he worried about a big attack? Because he's always across the map trying to make something happen, but he's throwing away a lot of units. Every single unit he throws at JimRising, you know, like, is stuff that he's having a hard time remaking. Look at this! Oh my god! Oh my god, just as I say that, JimRising comes in from behind with Balings and blows up the whole army of iNcontroL with a lot of high Templars in it. And these are units that are very hard to replace. Oh my god, that was insane.
Yeah, that was bad, but in the meantime, the Zealots on the fort base killed the fort base and 20 workers. So even though it was a really bad engagement, I feel like he did some decent damage, so it kind of evens out the game. As long as he doesn't just die straight up to the next lurker attack, which is right now
I think
forming.
he will. Like, there is no immortals. And he has no idea that this is morphing near his base, making this timing even stronger. I feel like JimRising is just gonna step up close to either... I guess it's gonna be the natural siege there, and it's gonna be like an unremovable siege at this point, when the lurkers burrow.
iNcontroL has really nice upgrades though. He has 3-1 upgrades, and JimRising only has 2-0 on his range unit. So perhaps with a little bit of a flank and a couple of good storms, he can do something. Another thing he could do is go for a base trade, keep the Templars at home, and I think he's going for some kind of semi-base trade, which I really like.
I can't tell if you're doing the caster thing of being optimistic, or if you actually think that iNcontroL still has a chance. I feel like it's almost impossible for him from there to win.
I think with a semi-base trade, like he's doing right now, it's actually very possible to do. Against lurkers, they're very slow at killing stuff. And they need to siege, unsiege all the time.
Yeah, the DGs did actually way more damage than I thought they would. He killed 37 drones! What is going on?
Yeah, and he killed the fourth and the third base.
Is there an overseer with the lurkers? No, there isn't. Oh my god. DT on top of the lurkers, he has an observer rallied there. He's gonna need some massive storms. Okay, that's not it. Wow, what a game. DT starts slicing away against the lurkers. Oh my god, he storms them.
If he wouldn't have lost his third base, I really would have liked iNcontrol's position. Right now, I think it's still playable. If he gets some good storms on these Hydras, perhaps he can...
Yeah, one of the Templars died, actually.
Yeah, that's
he could do much. He could even, actually, like, there's one of these overseers that's asking to get feedback. Like, every single unit and resource is important here, because JimRising is only mining from his natural right now. So iNcontrol has more walkers if he just remakes that Nexus, which he has the minerals for. It might be a good time to just pull back home for iNcontrol. Just regroup for a little bit, maybe get some immortals.
Yeah, but I think he's very afraid of giving JimRising a lot of time, because sometimes in this scenario, the Zerg has a lot of resources banked up. So they just build 2-3 hatcheries at the same time.
Yeah.
And then kind of get straight back into the game. So I understand why iNcontrol is on the map like this, but with the full vision that we have, he should just expand himself, start getting some immortals, and just keep adding more and more High Templar.
Damn, he
kind of low.
He needs to remake the Nexus though, I think, no?
Yeah. That's the main priority here for sure. I actually think warping in Zealots in the main base was a terrible call. You can't be wasting minerals like this.
Oh, he's trying to flank that other base at the same time. Almost stormed his observer. He's gonna snipe the hatchery, but I mean, if this army of JimRising jumps on top of this Protoss army here and kills it, it's gonna be curtains, I think. And he's looking to do just that. Oh, the observer died.
Yeah, if he loses those 2 Archons and those 3 Templars, I mean, what does he really have left? He's like 5 Zealots somewhere, I'm not exactly sure why, somewhere in the natural, then perhaps a DT, 1 or 2 Templars, some Observers, but he doesn't really have a strong enough oomph behind the army to really put a dent into those Lurkers. I mean, Storms are nice, but you need too many to kill Lurkers. 3 Archons morphing right now in the natural, and I feel like this is pretty much going to be curtains for iNcontrol here.
It's so hard to face lurkers without immortals, but iNcontrol somehow made this close with the semi-DT base trade that we talked about.
Yeah, I think it was the only thing he could have done, and for a while it looked pretty good. I think if he would have realized what his position was in the game and he would have just gone, he actually would have had a very good chance of still taking this game home, but once you overextend once in such a low eco situation, there's really no coming back from that, because you just can't afford to rebuild anything. And right now JimRising just marching into the main base here to claim his 4-0 and his group win.
Yeah, definitely an impressive one from him, but it showed that he can bleed. He was vulnerable at multiple points in this game, starting with the cannon rush early on.
Yeah.
I see Rotty and Indy in the chat, I'm sure they're like, yes, he can bleed. We'll make him bleed eventually, maybe, if we meet him. Rotty and Indy in the same group. They're going to be playing next week on Saturday, Group D. The group of death. And yeah, iNcontroL down to his last few units here. 30 army against 83. JimRising very smartly will send just a few Hydras forward to snipe these item loss, and then it's gonna be just pure Zealots against Lurkers and Hydralisks. JimRising very cautious though, taking his time. GG gets called and JimRising advances on to the round of 8.